Good evening and welcome to the season finale of Frontline Access with Maccabi Canada. I am thrilled to welcome in our guest tonight. You can find him on Twitter at @BuckSidelineGuy and @3DogThursday. He is the sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a correspondent for Sirius XM covering college football, college basketball, and golf. He's the man, the myth, the legend, TJ Rives.
Great to be with you. Now, do I have to call you Daniel, or can I stick the nickname in every once in a while and say Smadge? What's the deal?
You can stick the nickname in whenever you want. It's your show, yes. TJ. I'm just here as a guest.
No. It's your world. I'm visiting. It's great to be here, and hope everybody is doing well out there in the audience. I'm looking forward to a lot of fun, and fire away. If the audience has questions, has comments, I know you want some interaction. I'm all about it here tonight.
Thank you so much. So let's start off the top. You're Buck sideline guy. Tell us about that. You're on there. Rain, shine, snow. What's that like?
Well, generally, there's not a lot of snow. There is some rain every now and then. So I am part of the Buccaneers radio broadcast and have been for the last 15 years. I have been in the market, in the Tampa Bay market, now since 1983, have been in the media since 1992. So yes, start calculating how old I am. I am becoming an old man here, Smadge. It is a lot of fun to be part of it. I'm sure some of the questions are going to come about what is it going to look like this year. The one thing I keep saying to everybody everywhere, we don't know. The one thing that we do know is that we don't know. We don't know at this stage right now on July the 21st, at the time that we're talking tonight, what is it going to look like for broadcasters? What is it going to look like for sideline reporters? What kind of personnel is going to be allowed where? We're trying to figure it all out right now. So I enjoy thoroughly the role. I do get to be with the team, travel with the team, stay with the team. So it's a lot of fun to be with them and to be part of a season kind of from behind the scenes. So it's a neat job. It is one that I do not take for granted. There are a lot of people that would obviously love the opportunity to do what I'm doing.
So being on the sidelines, have you ever been at the end of a John Lynch hit or, and one of those collisions?
One of the things that I was taught very early on is pay attention to what is right in front of you or to peripherally just to the side of you, either way. Even if you're talking, even if you're live and you're talking, or if you're trying to talk to someone, always be aware when there's live play going on, you may be getting blasted by somebody by tackles. And you'll see from time to time, players come towards the sideline of an NFL game, and the Red Sea parts, if you will. Coaches get out of the way. Players get out of the way. Some players may stand and try to grab somebody if it's their teammate. Of course, if it's the opposing team, they're going to let them go fall over the bench and fall over the Gatorade table. But for us, a little extended down beyond the bench, you got to be ready. You got to be elusive. You got to have your track shoes on, Smadge. You got to be able to get out of the way, or you may get run over by some of these players coming out of the way. You get that close to the action.
So you're saying I won't find any YouTube clips about people running over TJ Rives?
Not to my knowledge. I can honestly say I have been run into a couple of times, but I have not been run over, at least any time that I can really think of that comes to mind. That wouldn't be out there. But yeah, you're that close. And one thing that I have related to people that I can't convey it accurately sitting here with you tonight on the video chat is the NFL is so fast and the players are big. I mean, you're talking about guys well over 6 feet, most of them well over 220 pounds, a lot of them over 240 or 50 pounds. And the collision, Smadge, it's like watching regularly multiple car accidents happen with the collisions, the tackles, the different plays that happen in front of you. There will be at least 2 or 3 times in a game on a normal play, not something that is extraordinary, where you look at that collision at field level and say, how did both of those guys get up? How did somebody not get seriously injured on that? So you have great appreciation for the speed, for the aggression, for the physical part of the game. And then you have to have respect for it too, for what these guys are doing every week with the contact. And you got to be aware that could be coming your way. Here comes the ball. Here comes players at you at the same time towards the sideline, and you better step back. You don't want some part of that.
Definitely not. So let's get to it. Somebody that dishes out some of that contact as well as catches the ball is Gronkowski. Mr. Rob Gronkowski is a Buccaneer, joined by Tom Brady. What's it like, knowing you're going into the season with two of the greatest of their positions now wearing the pewter?
Well, it's bizarre. It's surreal is the best way to describe it right now, because even though that guy is now part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as they made a deal with New England, he's come out of retirement after professional wrestling smash. Remember, he was in a professional wrestling ring earlier this year. Just a couple of weeks before a couple of weeks before the Bucs signed him, he won the WWE, the World Wrestling Entertainment 24/7 title. So he's been a wrestler, he's been doing some commentating, and now he's back. And it's surreal because, yeah, he was on a video Zoom like what we're doing on a video chat, but we haven't seen him in a Buccaneer jersey. We haven't seen him on a practice field as of yet. We haven't seen him much less in a game like this, catching touchdowns. But you're talking about one of the best weapons at the tight end position in the history of the NFL, certainly inside of the 20-yard line, if not inside of the 10-yard line. Very difficult to stop. So there's a lot of excitement and a lot of anticipation as to what can Rob Gronkowski do besides the Gronk spike, like that right there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And then going to number 12, this is not Trent Dilfer lacing up. This is Tom Brady.
Well, and remember, Doug Williams wore number 12. If you're a longtime Buccaneer fan from the orange and the Bucco Bruce, and Trent Dilfer wore the 12 with the orange for a couple of years and the Bucco Bruce helmet, and then wore it obviously with the pewter and red. So we've got a connection. We've got a distinction of quarterbacks wearing 12 in the past, but then there's a whole different 12. There's a first ballot Hall of Famer in Tom Brady that it's going to be very exciting to see him as part of this. I can't tell you. The number is dozens of people that have either seen me in person, contacted me by phone, social media, a text message, that can't wait to see what Brady can do for the Buccaneers. This is the most anticipated move in an offseason since the Buccaneers traded for Coach John Gruden. Very similar to Smedge's deal here on the show. The Buccaneers traded 2 number 1 picks, 2 number 2 picks, and $8 million to get a coach back in 2002, and got John Gruden to come to the Bucs and win a Super Bowl. So there was serious payoff to having gotten John Gruden. And this is the next thing, the next biggest thing, if not a bigger thing, to have Tom Brady, a first ballot, unanimous. Who's going to vote against this guy on the first ballot? He's going to be a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer with the multi Super Bowls, 6 of them, 3-time league MVP.
6 of them.
He's going in on the first ballot, and to have him part of the Buccaneers, it is crazy. It is crazy right now to contemplate that with the season approaching.
So we've already seen what kind of impact he can have, because there's been that drone footage that came out, him practicing at Berkeley Prep. What do you think his impact will be on that locker room?
Well, his impact on Berkeley Prep and their high school has been amazing, because everybody's now in the parking lot hiding between cars with their cameras and their video, or in the bushes or in the trees. So that is a distinguished private preparatory school in downtown Tampa. And this is where they're having to get some work done, because right now the NFL facilities have yet to open in that phase. That's supposed to be coming in the coming days or the next couple of weeks for training camps to begin. So Brady's been regularly working out with different cores of players because they can't, under the social distancing rules and guidelines, they can't have 30 guys down there working out at the same time. So some mornings he's got Mike Evans with him or Chris Godwin with him. Other mornings it's Gronkowski and OJ Howard in the backs. So they've been holding those workouts. And you're right, the television news, the local television news here has a helicopter flying over it to show the practices. So it's been neat to watch the coverage of just a workout that's not even an actual team practice with team coaches. That just tells you how much interest there is.
So there's interest, but at 43 years old, is he even the best quarterback in the division?
Well, that's a great debate about Drew Brees being there in New Orleans, who's 41, by the way. And Matt Ryan is no spring chicken, as we like to say in the South, because he's pushing about 33, 34 years of age, maybe 35. So, and then Teddy Bridgewater is the former backup in New Orleans, the former starting quarterback in Minnesota, and Carolina signed him as a free agent during free agency. But clearly, if you're talking about, who's got the jewelry? Who's got the rings? That's the distinguisher right now for Tom Brady. And so I think that has to trump whatever Breeze, he's got one. Matt Ryan played in a Super Bowl, and much to his dismay, it was the Patriots coming back from 28-3 down in the game to come back and win that Super Bowl. You got to give the nod to the new Buccaneer, don't you? We're biased, but objectively, you got to give the nod to Brady being the dean of this division.
I'm biased as well, but it's a good question. And it's a great debate.
Well, and that's what makes sports go around. And how about if we get to all of this on time, and we have every reason to believe that we will get to the first week of the season in September on time. The first matchup from the NFL schedule maker is Buccaneers and Brady at New Orleans against Drew Brees and the Saints, the first of two matchups. And we're anxious right off the bat because those guys didn't play an awful lot in different conferences. Only once every 4 years did we see Brady in New England play against Brees, the Saints, much the same way with the Buccaneers. Every 4 years, Patriots against Buccaneers being in the different conferences. So we haven't been treated to this too often. I think it's only like 3 times that they've played Brady and the Patriots against Brees and the Bucs. So let's get it underway twice, and let's go for the sweep. If you're the Buccaneers, go Bucs.
Very well said. So let's get down to what our reality is. We don't know what the season's going to look like. And recently it came out that there might be no preseason. There might be one preseason game. How is the preseason or the lack thereof going to affect the training for this team because you have these 2 new keys?
Well, it's a great unknown. As I keep saying, everybody just has to be week to week. We don't know. We don't. So the NFL wants to have at least one preseason game, if not a couple of them. The players have already come out and said we don't want any. They're trying to meet in the middle ground. It's fascinating because I'm a little older than you are. The preseason used to be 6 games. I don't know if you're aware of that, Smaj. It used to be a 6-game preseason, and it was primarily used for the starting players to get in shape because a lot of them in the offseason had to have a job, by the way. They weren't being paid enough to play professional sports that they had to have a job in the offseason to help pay the bills. So they would use 6 preseason games to go and get themselves into shape and get acclimated like you're talking about with your teammates. Now it's year-round football, or it has been until 2020 when everything has been shut down because of the pandemic. So you don't have as big a need. I have said this for so long, to have 4 games to get into shape. Everybody's already in shape when they report in late July and August. You better be, or you're going to get your job taken. So the need for 4 is going away. It's going to eventually be reduced to 3 anyway by the new agreement. I believe at some point it will reduce to 2, and they'll play 18 regular season games where there's more money for the players, more money for the TV networks. But for right now, we don't know how many there's going to be this year. And you bring up a great point. How much practice time, because you've missed all of it, are these teams that have a new quarterback like Brady for the Buccaneers, or new players on their teams? Deandre Hopkins, who's leaving from the Houston Texans to go to the Arizona Cardinals, he hasn't had a chance to really practice with his teammates, with Kyler Murray in a practice setting. So they need the same thing. Greg Olsen, who was always a thorn in the Bucs side as a tight end with Carolina, he's now in Seattle with the Seahawks on a 1-year deal. He has theoretically not really been able to practice with his Seahawks teammates and with Russell Wilson. So you need that time. I understand you need the time to go and get the work in. It remains to be seen whether we'll get an actual preseason game or 2 out of this, or will they just say, hey, the same for everybody. Get your work in August, and when we start in September, you're starting with games, and those will be the first games that everybody plays.
So it'll be the same thing all around. Everyone suffers the same consequences.
Well, right, and that's about the only fair way to do things right now, because, what if you're playing, hypothetically, if you're playing 1 preseason game, then half the teams are playing that on the road. So they get acclimated to the new travel, the new guidelines, the hotel, you go through all of that, as opposed to the one team that's just sitting at home and getting ready to host the game. So how do they make that fair enough? Again, they may go with 1 game. I don't have any insight here. They may go with 2 games. They may go with 0 on the preseason to work it out and just say, hey, everybody's starting with the regular season when everything is supposed to begin the second weekend in September.
Before we get to that question from Brian, on the preseason itself, we've both been in that locker room. It is a packed locker room with 90 guys. How is this going to affect these bubble players that are just trying to make the practice squad or be that 55th man on the roster?
Very difficult. I mean, a lot of times these preseason games are their opportunity to showcase and make the team. And now you're taking that away. We're talking about the second string guy, the third string guy. I mean, automatically you only keep 53 guys for the active roster. And I believe it's now 10 more for the practice squad. So 63 bodies either from your team that you've released, or you can go get other players for your active roster or your practice squad off somebody else's team as well. So every end of August, you're going to have in excess of 1,000 names, believe it or not. 30 names times 32 teams. You have 1,000 names that are suddenly available. By necessity, you have to get down to the 53-man roster limit. So out of that 1,000 names, you've probably legitimately got 100 guys, maybe even 150 guys that could be on an active roster, but it's just a numbers game. And they didn't get a chance really to demonstrate it in the preseason of 2020, how good they could be. Maybe they did in a previous preseason, or a couple of years ago, they were on the regular roster and got a chance to play. So a lot of teams may have to go back on the archives and the tape of last year's preseason to see what did that third string guy look like a year ago. He may not be that same guy right now that we get to see, but at least we have some reference point to what did he do a year ago, because you may not have the chance to watch him play a half of a preseason game.
Of course. And the same thing, going back to when they were in college, you have analyzed college football, you've commented on that. How did this pandemic affect the draft process and then the scouting of these players?
Well, it obviously it helped, all right, in one regard, that the college season was over. They had been able to do some evaluation with what are college football all-star games, and there were a couple of them that were played in January where the teams, the scouts, the GMs, the coaches, one of them was here in Tampa, the East-West Shrine game. Another one was in Mobile, Alabama, which is the Senior Bowl, where you could go there, interview the players, talk to the players pre-pandemic, happening in January, watch them practice, most importantly, how do they work out, and then see them play in the All-Star game. But the All-Star game is not as big as the week of practice and the week of development. So they got some of that is the answer. The scouting combine, where again, the teams go and evaluate the players, did happen in late February in Indianapolis. Again, they got a second opportunity to evaluate players. There were a lot more players at the combine invited than were at the two All-Star games. And there's even a third All-Star game, I believe it's played in California also in January as well. So there's 3 All-Star games with the combine. They got to evaluate them in late February. The problem is right after that, you couldn't have individual workouts. Yeah. You could not bring them into your facility because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that part was hindered in March and in April leading up to the draft, but you at least got some of the work in. And I'm a very big believer in this. What does their game tape look like from the 2019 season? Show me how they performed under fire, more so than how did they do in a cone drill in a shirt and shorts in Indianapolis. Show me what they looked like rushing the quarterback in November, not standing and doing a broad jump in some, at some workout somewhere in shorts and a shirt. So I'm a big believer that a lot of that game tape study is what you need to rely on anyway.
Fair enough and well said. Now we'll get back to Brian's question. I've been ignoring it because I think they have no weakness. But what would you say is the biggest weakness for the Bucs this season?
Oh, if they have a weakness, I don't know. One of them is young secondary, defensive backfield, and you're in a pass happy league and in a pass happy division with Breeze and Ryan and now Teddy Bridgewater for the new Carolina coaching staff. Matt Rule, a former college coach, is there. So if there's one thing we got to see better and got to see more of, it's going to be the Buccaneers defensive backs, I would think, and see them step up. Young group that is back there. There's certainly some talented players that this team has brought in the last 2 or 3 years. But out of that group, you've got to see some guys step up and go and make plays. I mean, we saw a rookie last year, Sean Murphy Bunting, come in and be able to play right away in the secondary. Carlton Davis is a player about to go into his third year, and you hope he can blossom as a lockdown corner. And you're going to need 3 or 4 of those before it's all said and done. MJ Stewart is another guy they drafted highly a couple of years ago. He's got to develop. He's got to step up as well. I'm anxious. You didn't ask me about this name, but Antoine Winfield Jr., son of a former NFL player who they drafted at safety, rookie out of the University of Minnesota. He's a golfer, eh? So Antoine Winfield Jr., come on down. I'm anxious to see what he can do in that defensive backfield, but it's a very young core. And if you're pointing to something and saying that's got to be verified, we've got to see it legitimized. What is the one position where you want to see more out of? It's probably secondary for the Bucs.
What I want to know is, you agree with the question mark on secondary, but on linebacker, we got Lavonte David. Why does he not get the respect he deserves throughout the league?
Great question. The guy has just been a fantastic player on a lot of bad teams, unfortunately. I think that's the answer to the question. When you don't win, it is very difficult for individuals to get noticed. You have to already overcome individuals at your position who are very successful, very well known. Now it's doubly hard if you're on a losing team and they're on a winning team, and you're not playing on Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, and they are. And your game is not being featured in the late afternoon on a television network like Fox or like CBS. And some of these other guys are, because their teams are more successful. If Lavonte was here with us, he would sit here and say, don't care. I want to win. I want to be in the playoffs. I care more. He's never been in the playoffs, Madge. It's almost criminal.
Since 2007.
Yes, I got to go to him and apologize again that he should have been in the playoffs a couple of times by now for the level of play he is. And for the fans that are not completely familiar, he's number 54 in pewter and red. He's a hard-hitting linebacker, maybe a little undersized, but I mean, his heart's as big as he is. His speed, his instincts are phenomenal. He is a leader. He is a stand-up guy in the locker room to lead this team, and he deserves to be on a playoff team, if not a Super Bowl team. Lavonte David deserves that. So I'm anxious to get him some more prep, some more pub, to let the fans and let everybody across the United States and North America know more the name Lavonte David. And he is as fantastic off the field, personally to you, as he is great player on the field.
So on that note, you've been around some incredible athletes, and I'm talking NFL, college sports, even professional golf. Who is that one guy you look up to and say that he's the best? This is the athlete of all athletes.
So you get to ask me that question now before I've been around Tom Brady, which is an interesting one to contemplate. But I've been privileged to be around a lot of great players on this team. Again, you know, when you start talking about Hall of Famers like Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks, and John Lynch will be there at some point, and he's now doing a fantastic job as a GM with the 49ers. So Lynch is going to be in the Hall of Fame, and we hope to have Rondé Barber, the defensive back, as a Hall of Fame. How do you defensive back go into the Hall of Fame coming up? How do you go against those guys to be around? Mike Allstott, the A-Train, bulling people over. Always fun to be around those Buccaneers. You mentioned the PGA Tour, and one of my many broadcast duties, I've gotten to be around on live radio calls, that Tiger Woods fella and that Phil Mickelson guy. And when you're around some of those greats and get to be around them, how cool is that to call their golf shots, be around them? It's a lot of fun. So I'm giving you a long-winded answer it's a long list of people. I never take it for granted that I'm on the sideline on an NFL Sunday, or getting to work a professional golf event, or be at the college basketball Final Four. I have been to 18 Final Fours. It got nixed because of the pandemic this year. The Final Four is how they decide college basketball's championship at one site. It's now gotten so big that it's in a football stadium now every year. It was supposed to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for this year, April of 2020. But it is never lost on me to get to be at those stadiums, those venues, those big moments when you're around this. I mean, but Buccaneers have recently in the past few years been on Monday Night Football, and you're looking right out there, and there's Ben Roethlisberger, Super Bowl champion for the Steelers, going against the Bucs doing battle, or when you would play against Tom Brady in London, as the Buccaneers did. The first trip to London for an England international game was against Brady and the Bucs, and those guys
they got
were
crushed.
rolling. They were rolling at that time. The week before, I still remember saying this. The week before, they had played Kurt Warner and the Arizona Cardinals, and they had scored a touchdown the first 7 times they had the ball, New England, and they were up in the early third quarter like 49-10. So when the game was 24-7, like in the second quarter, I said, Gene, I came on the air and I said, Gene, this is going to sound stupid, but it's only 24-7. I said, think about last week. They were up like 49-10 with 13 minutes left in the third quarter, New England. And this is the teams that had Randy Moss and had Gronkowski. I think Gronkowski had just gotten there. Maybe he wasn't there in 2009 just yet. Maybe he was there like the year after. Got to go back and check. But they were destroying everybody they played and scoring 30, 40 points in the first 3 quarters to kill everybody. So at least the Bucs hung in for a little while, is what I remember about that. But you're standing there watching those guys, and you're going, these are the best. This is the standard when you watch them play and when you watch that unfold.
You mentioned Phil, so we'll talk about his 78-foot or 78-yard putt in a bit. But Brian just asked a great question I didn't even think of. Bucs 2020 offense versus 2002 Bucs defense. Which one are you taking?
That is a great question. Whose rules are we playing under? Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks would ask. Because if you're still playing under 2002 rules where you could hit people and even make some contact with your face mask or your helmet while making a hit, not lowering the head with the crown blasting them, the rules have greatly changed on pass defense. So whose rules are we playing? Are we playing under the 2020 rules? I mean, those guys would want to know that right now in 2002. I'm always a big guy that defense stopping people wins. I know the offense is what we glamorize now, and when everybody's playing the Madden game or playing fantasy football, they want offense. I was always a little more partial to that Buccaneer defense. The shame of it is that from 1999 to 2003, let's say, with Sapp and Brooks and Lynch and Barber and Simeon Rice and Shelton Quarles and all the names that Buck fans know, but a lot of your audience may be going, okay, what about all those names? But Sapp and Brooks, again, are in the Hall of Fame. Lynch will be there eventually. Simeon
Barber
Rice
as well.
Yeah, and Simeon Rice may end up being in the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well. For that group to have only won 1 Super Bowl championship, you just shake your head at that. They were such an elite, awesome defense. You would have thought they would have gotten 2 of them, but the Bucs just didn't get the offense figured out. Tony Dungy didn't get the offense figured out. John Gruden did get the offense figured out, and you got 1 in 2002. But I would probably go to answer the question, Buccaneer defense in the way back.
So I'll ask you one Gruden question. The football fans here, they might know him from the Bucs. They might know him from last season of Hard Knocks, and everyone's knocking on wood when they hear his name. Tell me.
I love that. Knock on wood if you're with me. You know, that's not something that I knew about or I think that he did in Tampa Bay. That may be a new thing with the Raiders. Knock on wood if you're with me.
So you got to share with us one great Gruden story.
Oh, hey, you want the first time that he and I privately talked about the radio show? I mean, this is the classic one, and I'll do the impression the best that I can. And this is the truth. I'll recreate it the best I can. So they had a struggle in 2003 and 2004, 2 losing seasons. The 2004 season was, I think, an 11 or 12 loss season. And so he's under fire to a degree. It's 2 years after the Super Bowl, 2 losing seasons. You're now going into 2005. And I believe this is the year before you came in and around that same time, Smadge. Yeah. So he was under some fire. So I was hired to do the role that I'm doing for that first year for 2005, to be on the sideline and to be the host of his radio show. And so he and I, we went into his office, and his office is not much bigger than this room that I'm in right here back at the old $1 place. It was a small office. And we sat down, and he looked at me kind of with the one eye closed and with the squint and with the eyebrow going up. And he goes, I'm going to tell you something about this radio show. I said, okay, yes, sir. He said, we may stink. He goes, and you can ask me about whether or not we stink, but it ain't going to be the whole show. Understood? And I said, yes, sir. Understood. I got it from here on out. Now, the good news is in 2005 with Cadillac Williams, the rookie running back, they won the first 4 games. right off the bat.
His shoes are in the Hall of Fame.
His shoes are in the Hall of Fame. I think the ball from the Green Bay game, because he became the first running back in the history of the NFL as a rookie to run for 100 yards in each of his first 4 games, or at least each of the first 4 games of his rookie season. There may have been another rookie who ran as a starter later in the year for 100 or more games in his first 4 games later in the year. So Cadillac stuff is in the Hall of Fame because of that start. So I had nothing but positive. I had nothing but wins and love right off the bat with John Gruden after that conversation.
No wonder he loves you so much.
I don't know about, hey, I had many a time where we would be sitting and doing the radio show, and it was really neat because after a while, because in this instance, we were in a room, there's no audience, and after about 10 minutes, people start to relax, kind of like what we're doing right now, and just start talking. And so you can get great things, great information out of him. He was tremendous on giving you breakdown, but also on giving you insight into him and second guessing. And so I'll bring up a play. I'll say, hey, 4th and 1 near midfield. And he interrupted me. He goes, should have called the other damn play. And I didn't even finish the question. And I said, so you really right now regret? He goes, of course I regret. He didn't let me answer. Didn't let me finish again. Of course I regret it. Of course I should have called the other play. He goes, you lay awake at night. You get ulcers in your stomach about why did I not call that play? Why did I call the other play on 4th down? Why did we lose? Why did I screw that up? He has another famous line where the team was winning in low scoring games, like in 2002 in that Super Bowl year. They won 2 or 3 times in low scoring games without a lot of offense. And so the question was, are you happy right now with this offense? The offense only scored, 10 points last week and won 10-6. And Gruden looks at him again with that eye. And he goes, I'm miserable when we lose. And now you want me to be miserable when we win? I thought it was the greatest line. No kidding. Am I supposed to be miserable when we win now too? When do I get to be happy if we kill everybody by 30?
We've only got about 7-8 minutes left with you, TJ. So I'll bring in a question from Avi on Facebook. University of Iowa alumni, have you had a chance to see Tristan Wirfs? Go Hawkeyes.
All right. So good for you, Avi. Listen, it's the same surreal situation. I have interviewed him on the night of the draft. I got the chance to interview him, and what an engaging guy. 1st round pick, big 300-pound offensive lineman, a big guy up front to help block for Tom Brady. And it seems very personable, but again, it's surreal. We haven't seen him hold up a Buccaneer jersey, Daniel. We haven't seen him out on the practice field as of yet. That's coming soon, but we're anxious to see what he can do and this offensive line around Tom Brady. And you got to think about Tristan Wirfs. I mean, you're dreaming of playing in the National Football League. You don't have any idea where you're going to get picked ultimately. Are you going to get picked in the 1st round? So it is the realization of a dream that you're going to get picked to begin with. Now you find out you're getting picked in the 1st round and you're going to cash in. So now you got money. And oh, by the way, your first season and your first game out of the box, all things equal, you're blocking for Tom Brady for the Bucs. I mean, just play that out as a 22-year-old who's been watching Tom Brady, I'm sure, for the last 8 to 10 years of his life since he started watching football as an early elementary age, middle schooler. I don't know when he began, but he's been watching football 5, 6, 8, 10 years. Been watching Tom Brady succeed.
He knows the man. Yeah.
And you're now in there blocking for him. How cool. And the cool thing is he's going to look at him and say, either Brady, Tristan, or Wirfs, you got to do this better. I need you over here. And I think part of me would be going, man, he's talking to me. He's talking to me about blocking. Yeah, look at this video that we have for a moment here and see how many people are getting around the right side of Iowa's offensive line or are being pushed into oblivion. Look at that in the middle of the screen while he just seals people off and pushes them into an oblivion. They're top of the screen on the right, circled up. Love Tristan Wirfs and look forward to him blocking for this season and for years to come on the right side of the Bucs offensive line.
So I would normally ask you now that his first game will be in the Superdome, but with fans max 25% of the stadium being full, it's going to be a different atmosphere. It's not going to be the same Superdome. What's that going to be like?
Well, I mean, we can only speculate. That place is loud, even if they got 15 or 20,000 in there. But man, I often refer to it as a 4 Advil game or ibuprofen or Tylenol, 2 before the game and 2 after the game because of how loud it is, how the sound reverberates. in your ears, etc. So I can only imagine here, if there's only 10 or 15,000, it'll still be loud in that place. They'll still make noise. It'll be loud at Raymond James Stadium. People don't realize how loud you can be with 15 or 20,000 people if they scream at the right time and how loud it can be. Is it going to be the same? No. Will it be surreal if we have no fans? I mean, I'm watching that with the European soccer, and I know you're big on the hockey, and the hockey is coming up in empty ice rinks, and the NBA is going to play down here in Orlando in empty basketball arenas. It is baseball, empty baseball stadiums. It is going to be weird. It is going to be weird to be there with no fans, but hopefully, because the state of New York has already said no fans, and the Bucs are slated to play in New York coming up this year against the Giants on a Monday Night Football game. So for right now, there's not supposed to be any fans at that game, subject to change. So it'll be weird if there's no fans. It will definitely be different if there's very few fans. It'll be an adjustment to get used to.
So I'll get you out of here with a couple more questions. The first one being, a lot of people are predicting the Bucs. They're saying Super Bowl or bust. What do you think? Give us your honest opinion.
That's a fair expectation right now with Brady being brought in. I mean, honestly, if you said to 10 Buccaneer fans, is anything short of the playoffs failure? Answer yes. Probably of the 10, is anything short of the NFC Championship game failure? Probably half of them would say yes. We expect to be in the NFC Championship game. Now you got to go win a game. Then you got to go win like 10 games to get in the playoffs, or 11. Some years it might take 12 to have a home game. And then when you talk about the best of the best, like this scene we're looking at here in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago against the Rams, I mean, that is, I've been there. I was there for the Super Bowl win in San Diego over the Raiders now 18 years ago, when the Buccaneers did something they've never done before and have never done since. But I don't fault anybody for having a Super Bowl expectation. You should have those goals. You think when Tom Brady Smudge walks in to the first time that he gets to talk to the offensive team and the offensive room, that he's going to say anything less than the Super Bowl for their goal privately? You think he's walking in saying, let's just make the playoffs? I'm getting excited now. I'm ready for the season to start. I mean, what do you think he's going to do for the audience that's out there? You think he's going to go in and write on a whiteboard, let's be 10-6? He's going to write, he's going to walk in with the rings on the fingers. All right, I'm imagining this. And write with the marker SBLV. And by the way, they're playing SBLV. Do I have that right on 55? They're supposed to play that here. They're supposed to play that here. Super Bowl 55. That's what the goal is going to be from him. Got to believe it.
You've got my tickets for that game, right?
Hey, I have already. I got the Twins in my house, and I'm sure they're listening maybe in the other room, or they may be watching for all I know. They haven't sent in a question as of yet. They're already hitting me up. Like, and so the other thing I'm having to tell them is it's a pandemic. Is there going to be a lottery for how many people can be there or not with social distance? We don't know any of these answers. We don't know next month, much less October, much less February. The Twins are hitting me up. My 12-year-olds are hitting me up about, are we in for the Super Bowl or not? There is an expectation in my house, Smudge, about this very point. But I would say to you what I've said to everybody else, which is get your wallet out. Because if it is, or your Bitcoin or whatever they're using these days now for currency, if it is social distancing and limited fans, you thought tickets were nuts before in terms of price. Whoa. Look out.
Wow. TJ, it's been an incredible 40 minutes. I want to thank you so much for your time. Any final thoughts, final words?
Hey, everybody stay safe. Social distancing, masks, all still very important. I know that Florida is in the news a bunch. There are a lot of states right now in the United States that are in the news about this. Again, we press forward. We remain positive. School about to start in a lot of places in the United States, and I'm sure in Canada soon enough too. Let's stay safe. Let's get back to sports. As we mentioned, Major League Baseball in the United States starting this week. Soon the NBA and the NHL are going to resume, including their playoffs. And I know you guys are excited in Canada for the hockey and for the hockey playoffs, and that Toronto is going to be one of the hubs. And then hopefully that leads to football. Let's get back to the sports. Sports unifies us. Sports brings us together. We can be of different political beliefs. We can be of different sexes, different religions. We can be living in different parts of the country, but we still love our teams. For God's sake, you live in Montreal, Canada, and root for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I love you for it.
Amen.
So sports unifies us and brings us together, and let's hope that continues. And by the way, for the NHL resumption, go Bolts, go Lightning. They're going to be up there in your part of the world for the resumption of this. Let's see how it goes there. We're all going to be watching on the tube.
Very well said, TJ. On that note, on bringing us together, before we get out of here, I want to mention at 8:30 p.m., there'll be a special tribute to Representative John Lewis on the virtual JCC stream. So hopefully everyone watching can check that out. TJ Rives, at Buck Sideline Guy on Twitter, at 3Dog Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And have yourselves a great night.
Thank you.